Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Let's Build Something. This time we're going to be actually attacking another bash script that someone has requested on r/programming request on Reddit. As usual, if you're watching the video, or even if you're watching this on Twitch, watching the video on Twitch, I'm going to link the gist of whatever we post. So whatever solution we give them, you guys will have access to it, just so you can also go through the final solution if you don't want to watch the entire video. So what we have right here is someone is looking to create a custom config file, who knows for what, but they're trying to set up a VPN policy that allows Netflix to use the WAN connection instead of the VPN connection that's used by every client. So he has a script that downloads all the IP addresses used by Netflix at the moment, and it's put into a text file where IP addresses are listed one per line. So this is the curl statement for, what is this website? Let's check that out. What's that? Oh, okay, so it's just IP info, gives the who is. Okay, and here's all the ranges. Sure, yeah, all in. Okay, whatever. And it comes with their slash CIDR block. So that's kind of cool. Oh, here are the hosted domains. Okay, so, all right. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, he's getting IPv4s right here. I'm guessing that, yeah, it's just a whole bunch of them. Okay. Well, anyway, he's getting all of them, and then he greps the actual HTML element, and then does a string replacement with sed, and pretty much winds up with just the value of the IP address with the CIDR block at the end, writes it to temp/Netflix, and then he wants to make a custom config file that looks like this, where, okay, well, there's where he puts his config file. So we got config policy, option, comments, remote. Okay. Basically, he just wants to replace this netflix.com with every single IP address without the CIDR block, because apparently that won't work. Yeah, because with the config, so yeah, he doesn't want the subnet mask or the CIDR block, and so the new config should just be option remote addresses. So this is going to be our changing line in the config file, depending on what happens. We're just going to write a config file. I'm not going to try and write it to this directory because, like, who knows what his permissions are on it. So I'm not just going to make a script that's just going to try and write to the directory. We're just going to make something that works. And then, it's going to be, two variables probably that he'll have to modify that'll read in these things. And we'll have it to where he can pass in an argument of where that Netflix with all the IP addresses is. We'll have it to where he can pass that in. But either way, if we're going to be doing this, we're going to be doing this in Bash. I'm running Windows, obviously, so I've already got my VM running. And let's log into it. Just simple password goes to VM. No one really cares about it. So what we do is we start up a terminal right now, and actually let's open up that thing, and let's just run this curl statement that's just going to make this statement. So I should be able to paste it in across. Yeah, okay. So instead of writing to temp Netflix, we're actually going to write to actually, you know what? Let's not do that, because that's just going to write a random file. Let's go to CD to desktop first. We'll just do all this in desktop. There we go. And then how do we just paste that? And then we'll just write it to Netflix, and this will just this should create, as you see, a file on the desktop that just is called Netflix. If we check out that file, is it empty or something? Why is it empty? Was it not able to, like, curl it? Let's see. There we go. Okay. Yeah, it was weird. I guess that curl failed. Anyway, you can see that, this thing is lines and lines and lines of IP addresses with the optional, I guess, subnet mask, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're just going to create a file right now that's just going to do touch, and we'll call it config maker. And we'll do .sh. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Atom, which is going to be pretty much overkill for just making a simple bash file. But you know what? Yeah, we do things a little extra on this channel, and that's okay. So what we want to do first is, in our config file, we want to probably specify that we are using bash. So there's a way to, so this in Atom, there's a way to do it, but I forget what it is. It's either bin. There we go. Okay. So if you just start typing enough stuff randomly, it'll autocomplete the file. And this is what the top of a bash file should look like. Basically says, for this environment, we're going to be using bash. So the script will only run with bash. And the first thing we want to do is we know our first argument is going to be the file name. So simply we're going to start with a variable called file name, and we're going to have it equal to the first argument. So when you run a bash file, the way we would run it is we'd go config maker like this. So the thing is in bash, this is option 0. So if we were to do $0, we would actually get config maker.sh back. The first argument is it's 0 index. So config maker, then the file, then any other arguments you want to have. But the first thing we want to do is we're not even going to bother running this script if they don't specify a file name, because that's not going to be much use to us because we're not going to be able to iterate over anything. We're just going to get an empty result. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an if statement in bash, which is written this way, where you do if, then, and then you close it doing fi, actually. And what we're going to do is we're going to say echo no file name provided, and then we're just going to exit, and that's it. If we try to do this now, no file name provided. And if we do provide a file name, the easiest way of that is just drag this guy into there. You'll see we provided an absolute file domain, which is file position, which is what we're going to need to even run this script. And, I accidentally opened the file, my bad. There we go. Let's see. There's got to be a space right there. Must have accidentally deleted it. Okay. So anyway, you can see that when we run the script, it doesn't exit. So we're doing good. So we'll just add a comment right here. Leave, or exit script. Sorry, not leave. Leave. What am I doing? Exit script when no file provided. I think that's pretty self-explanatory from the if statement, but you never can be sure. So what we're going to do is first we can just do a nice little echo statement and say looking for file, and then we'll pass in file name right here. And this is doing some string interpolation where we are going to put the variable of whatever file name is equal to into this string. So we rerun this. Okay, and you see it says looking for file, home, TDC, desktop, Netflix, which is what we're looking for. So what we're going to do is we're going to read in the raw IP addresses, and this is just going to be an empty array right now. And then we're going to have an IP address, and we'll have no mask. And this is an empty array also. And this is actually how you can declare just an empty variable of any type with bash. You can specify the array type with, I believe it's -a, but we don't really have to worry about this. The heavy lifting of this, where we're going to be reading in this line-by-line file and putting it into an array, actually can be trivially done by a command that's already included with Linux, and which is called map file. So we're going to do map file, and we're going to t. So I believe that's tab space. But before I tell you guys the wrong thing, let me see what -t is. So -t, if we look for that command. Oh wait, no, this is totally the wrong thing. Let's go to bash, built-in commands, and bash. So map file, so alias, what is t? That's a pretty useless documentation page, I'm not gonna lie. There we go. Here, we'll just do map file args. Probably just do map file -h, and that would tell us what we need to do. Okay, if any line ends in a new line, strip it. Okay, so basically what happens is in this file, there's actually a \n at the end of every line so that it knows to go to the new line. And what the t command does is strips that -n so that we don't read it in. Otherwise, we're going to have a -n at the end of every single one of our variable names. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to send all of these each line into our raw IP address, and we're going to be reading that from the file name that we specified. So this file name should have a bunch of new line delimited IP addresses. We're going to push that into the raw IP address array, and then actually what we can do is a nice little for statement. We do for IP in And what you can do to loop through every single item in an array in Bash is just do what's called raw IP addresses, and you specify the at variable, and that's will dump the entire array so that you can iterate over it. And then when you do a do and done inside the for loop, and our action is going to go here. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to use a command that also comes with Linux-based distros called cut. And what we're going to be doing is it's essentially like a split statement. If anyone's ever messed with JavaScript or Ruby or anything like that, where we're going to look for character in the field, which an IP address is a very, very, very expected format. We know exactly what an IP address looks like, and there's not going to be any weird characters or anything like that in an IP address. So this is actually the perfect use case for this, because we're probably not going to run in any weird edge cases, because an IP address, we're all familiar with maybe how an IP address comes. You've got first block, second block, third block, and then you've got the last bit, and then you can specify a mask. So that's what we're actually going to be stripping, because we're going to be stripping the mask part. So what we could do is we're actually going to call it, we're going to make a temporary variable called fixed IP, which I guess that's kind of a misnomer, but what we're going to do is we're going to execute a statement inside of here. We're going to echo the variable IP, which is going to be the full line as it's read in the Netflix file. But then what we're going to do is we're reading just one line at a time. So this is going to be IP, 192.168.0.0/24. What we're going to do is we're going to actually pipe this to the cut command. We're going to give it FL, and then D is actually what we are looking for to cut at, which in this case we're looking for a /. So this will actually assign, every time it loops through fixed IP will be a single IP with the / whatever cut off at the end of it. And what we want to do is we're going to do IP address no mask. We want to do a plus equals, which is going to append this item to the existing array. So as we get more, at the first, there'll be no items. We'll make a first one, the second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever. These variables that are going to the array are 0 indexed also, just in case anyone was not familiar with that aspect. And what we're going to do here is we're actually just going to echo the fixed IP. You can't just pass in the raw variable. It won't work, because that's just not how Bash is going to be friendly with this. So what we want to do is we actually echo this string, and the echoed part is what gets appended to the array. So kind of a weird little workaround, but that's just the way it is. And actually, if we want to just echo right here and we want to dump our entire array, we can actually just sit here and go IP address no mask and do at. And actually, you know what? Let's put this whole thing in double quotes and then put this part in curly braces. There we go. And let's see what we get. Cut. Let's see. We got an issue with cut. I'm sorry, I typed in FL. It's F1. I'm sorry. That was a silly mistake on my part. Okay, so you see we actually got all the IP addresses, but this is a little bit of a problem, because 108.175.32.0018, this last bit octet, is actually not a real IP address. It stops at the 0, and then the next IP is 108.185.33.0. So what we actually need to do is just add a little space at the end of each array item, so that there's always a trailing space, so that next time we print it, you'll see that we can clearly tell this is an IP, this is an IP, this is an IP, all of that. So that's actually kind of good. Glad we caught that, because otherwise, this thing would have been trying to resolve IPs that don't exist. So now what we want to do is we actually just want to write that new config file. We know from the spec that he is trying to write to accept config VPN policy routing, and that's nice, but we actually don't have the ability to I don't want to just go ahead and assume that we can write to that file directory. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a new file name, I guess, and we're going to have it equal to new config, and we're just going to write it to the same directory, but he's probably going to want to write it to there, so we can replace it with that if we felt so inclined. So we can say replace new file name with that. There we go. Okay, so what we want to do is this is actually a really cool way to write a multi-line file in Bash, and it's going to overwrite the entire content of the file. So we're actually going to call the cat command, which seems a little misleading, but then we're going to do this kind of, it's a way to denote pretty much anything between this EOM marker is going to be exactly formatted and exactly what we want printed into this file. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to push this into new file name, sorry. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have to find that spec again. Let's open up the Reddit request. He specifies he wants the connection to look like this, so let's just copy that sample, go in here, run it. Pausing, I keep coughing. I don't want to do that into the mic. So we're going to specify EOM again. This is now whatever is going to be printed, but you'll notice that he has these IP addresses. What we actually want to do something very simple. We're going to interpolate our IP address no mask, and we can do the @ symbol here or not, and let's just see what it looks like. But either way, this is the end of the script. This is it. This is now writing the file name. So let's see what we get right to desktop, and let's see. New file name ambiguous. Oh, we're specifying a variable, so we can't use the $sign right there when you declare the variable. Okay, so here we go. We got a new config, and you'll see remote addresses, and there's no commas because in the spec he didn't denote any commas. There's a little bit of a trailing space at the end right here. I don't think that's going to be an issue for him at all because it's already rendering spaces between addresses. So it'll just say that the last address is invalid, which if he comes back and says, hey, it's given a problem, but it's able to work with all the other addresses, it's like, okay, well, then we can fix that very easily. I leave that actually to you. If you are actually able to strip off just the last trailing space, take that under your as an exercise for yourself and see if you can handle that. There's a lot of Bash is an extremely well documented. I guess you don't really want to call it a language, but it is technically. There's shell scripting. This is scripting. That's all this is. Bash is born again shell. So you're writing scripts is what you're doing here. So that is pretty much it, actually. Man, that was a quick video, wasn't it? Well, either way, you can see, we're just writing these files, and every time we write it again, you see it just overwrote whatever was in the file with the new IP addresses. So once again, I'll be linking this in the video on YouTube, the shell script, and some ways to improve upon this script would actually be, and because right now we're hitting up Netflix.com and we're using that command that I ran in the beginning to get all these IPs. What if you were just able to specify a domain? It automatically got the IPs, put them into the config maker, and automatically made the config. That would be really cool. So see if there's a way that you can actually build on top of this shell file and make it even stronger. Build a better solution than me and post it on that Reddit request. The Reddit request is going to be linked in here. So, outdo me. I very much encourage it. I don't think I'm very good at it anyway. So, you know what? You guys need to show me up, and I'll give you the tools to do it. So, anyway, that is actually going to be it for this stream. And, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. I'll be sure to get back to you. If there's any kind of improvements that you think that I should have made or ones that you can make, please share them with everybody. We'd all like to see what you've been up to. So thank you guys for watching another episode of Let's Build Something, and I'll see you guys next time.